Yo, what up, what up? This Kaiser Soze, how you guys doing? It's a new video. I haven't done one in quite a bit. I got a few questions on the one I put up a few months ago on how I determine these zones and the exact ranges of these zones. So I thought I'd just cover that in this video really quickly. If you do a fucking search on Google, that will typically solve your problem for most of the questions that you're going to ask me. But for you lazy motherfuckers out there, I'm going to do this video, okay? Because I know some of you guys are fucking lazy. I'm lazy too, so don't worry about it. But anyway, I'm going to start with a supply level, okay? And then we'll move into demand levels. So for a supply level, first let's identify it, right? We have we have other supply levels up here. I'm just using this one. No supply levels up here, okay? There's not shit. First supply level we get starts right here. We got our consolidation right here, the decent move out of that level with momentum. And you see we continue further down. So it's a good level. It was tested relatively right here, but it's still pretty fresh. I mean, that's kind of a weak test, so it's still a pretty fresh level. And you see that we're getting a good reaction off it right now. This is trading right now. This is August 28th. And this is the dollar yen again. So the level starts right here at 97.83. Now, how do I know that? Okay, so what you're going to do is this. It's very simple. It's not rocket science here. So you're going to take the candle that was engulfed, okay, which in this case is right here. Okay, this the blue one right here, not this purple one that engulfs it. You're going to take the candle that was engulfed. You're going to take the open of that candle, which in this case is 97.83. And that's where the supply level is going to start. Now, one thing I want to emphasize really plainly is I know that people like to hear shit that's very, cookie cutter clean and that, isn't discretionary and that's very straightforward and that will be the same every time. Unfortunately, the markets don't work like that. These rules are not set in stone. For example, a lot of times I'll make the level right here. A lot of times I'll even use this little zone right here instead of this zone. It all depends on how we move into the level and other nuances that you guys will pick up as you progress trading and things that you'll begin to notice as time goes on. So is this always going to be how I draw these levels? No, fuck no. But the majority of the time, this is how I'm typically drawing them, and this is how I've seen other people typically explain them. I don't really know if I trade in the conventional way that most other people trade this stuff. I'm just showing you what I do and what works for me, and what works well and what'll make you money. So anyway, for a supply zone, again, typically I'm going to start with the open of the candle that gets engulfed and just go to the high of the range. Now with the demand zone, it's the same thing. You're just going to flip it around. So it's going to look a little bit different. So for example, we have our first demand zone that gets formed right here. Okay. You see we have this pretty decent move down, actually a really nice move down. And the first real indication we get of a strong level of buyers is right here. Okay, and we're actually bouncing off a pretty good support right here. But even without looking at the support, without looking at the pass, you really don't even need it. You could just wait and see when the buyers come in, and we get that obvious indication right here. Okay, so we know that we have a fresh level that forms right here when this big candle gets engulfed by this even bigger candle. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find the open of the candle that gets engulfed, which in this instance, let me remove the ray just so it's a little bit clearer. Which in this instance is right here. Okay. Now you see we come down into that level, we get a good reaction off it, we move up off it, and now we're just back into the supply that I labeled earlier, and we're continuing to move down. Now we're reacting off this support right here. But anyways, back to the demand shit. Again, it's the same thing as I just illustrated before. You just flip it. It's really fucking simple, man. Just find the candle that gets engulfed, start at the open of that candle. That's where it starts. Go to the low of the range. And again, if this candle that engulfed it breached the low of this candle, then that's where the low of the range would go. But it didn't. So the range is from 97.07 to 96.81. Now, a lot of times, especially when the zone is a little bit wider like this, this zone isn't even that wide. When you know, if you can imagine this was a daily chart and this zone was like, you know, 200 pips wide, what I like to do is identify pivot points within the range, which I'm not going to get into too much here just because that's a whole other video in itself. But like, you know, for instance, like this this would be a pivot point of the range right here. This would be one of them. And if you go into the smaller time frames, you can get even more specific. Now, another thing you want to remember is the market is all fractals, right? I mean, you can break this down to smaller time frames and smaller time frames to try and you know, make your entry as you know, effective as possible for getting the best possible risk reward ratio, right? And I'm gonna illustrate that right here. So again, we had the zone that started on the hourly time frame, okay? At fucking shit. Let me get this line first. Hold up. 97.06. So that's where it started on the hourly time frame. Now, if we break this down into a smaller fractal, it's going to look a little bit different. Okay? We're going to get the zone to start right here. Or at least you're going to get a second zone that starts right here. So you're going to see we get this. This is the initial reaction on the 1 hour candle that starts right here in this candle. And you see we get engulfed pretty significantly. Then we get another one that forms right here. And again, I'm starting right here because this is the candle that gets engulfed right here. And I'm starting with the open of the one that gets engulfed. And then you see we come down and test it to the pip at 97.03. So again, this is just a case of keeping a smaller stop. Now, if you want to get in on the you know, on the touch of the hourly right there, if you want to get in at 97.07, that's fine. But you're gonna have a stop that if you're trading this like I do it, you're gonna have a stop that's about 30 pips, which is you know, depending on your target, could be fine. I have no idea how you guys are trading. If I was swinging this thing, that would be fine. But if I wanted to refine my entry a little bit, you just break this down into a fractal and just do the same thing on a smaller time frame. So you see we come down into the hourly zone. We get another demand level that forms on the 15-minute when this candle gets engulfed by this one. And then we just draw that zone again at 97.03. Again, you start with the open. And then you see we get a bounce right off it to the pip. And here, basically, I'm just, like I said before, managing my risk better. Okay, so instead of having a 30 pip stop, I got a 15 pip stop, which is you know, something I'm going to prefer every time. So that's just managing your risk. And I'll probably make another video in due time about how to identify pivot points within the range to cut your risk down even more. But for now, that'll do, and that's the general gist of it. And again, don't get stuck on a cookie cutter method or a you know, something that's the same every time, because it's not. This shit's always changing. So don't always draw your zones the same way. You want to identify patterns with different zones. Look for price exhaustion at different levels, and you know, really get a good grasp of how these zones work, because that's not something I could teach you. That's not something anyone can teach you. That just comes from experience. So just keep looking for this shit, and you'll get it down. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. All right, later, guys.